Hey, my name's Jared Moon, and I'm part of a group of underground athletes you've probably never even heard of before. Most of us don't even have gym memberships. We don't have every piece of equipment known to man, nor do we have a ton of time to train. And we don't need it because we're achieving amazing things without it. We are Garage Gym Athletes, and these are our stories. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Jared Moon here. Welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. With me today is Joe Courtney. What's up, Joe? How you doing?
Pretty good.
Yeah, well, all right. And then we have Scott Dombroski. How's it going, man?
Real good.
Yeah, glad to have you here. I was explaining to Scott before we got on. We've had multiple conversations. So I speak, and all of my conversations are into this microphone, so I can never tell if I'm actually recording a podcast or just talking to somebody or whatever. So I feel like I know who Scott is. I want to make sure that I make sure everyone else knows who Scott is. So how about you give us a quick intro, man, who you are, what you do, and how you train?
Of course, love to. So my name's Scott Dombroski. I am a garage gym athlete, and I've got 2 kids. One's going to be about 3, and then I got a baby girl. She is 9 months right now. And so that was kind of the garage gym athlete intro. But that's how as far as how I train, I've tried, I think, just about every track. I have tried every track so far and I train in my barn. I train alone.
Nice.
And I love it. It's been fantastic.
So
barn gyms are always the best.
Barn gyms may be my favorite. I've never had one. I've worked out in a barn gym, but man, tell me about, we just have to start there right away. So tell me about the barn gym. What's the setup?
So we bought a house a little over 2 years ago, and it was an old horse ranch. So came with a lot of land and large barn, 60 by 40 barn. Half of it covered in concrete, the other half covered in horse stall mats. So it was kind of perfect. Wow. So that's
a huge savings right there, man.
Yeah, exactly.
No, leave the mats.
Move those mats onto the concrete, so I had a little bit more solid footing, and so plenty of space where I'm at. And when the snow flies, it's nice to have all that space.
Yeah, where are you located?
I'm in northern Michigan, so just if you're familiar with Michigan, just south of the Upper Peninsula. I'm right at the tip of the mitten there.
Wow, so
cold.
Yeah, what kind of cold we talking?
Last winter was pretty brutal. I do remember with wind chill. So that was, it was like 0 real temp with wind chill one day doing a meet yourself ruck, and it was minus 20. But
nice.
that was the worst day. Cold enough, I have gotten frostbite. But I now wear longer collars when I'm training in the winter. Front squats will get the neck.
Wow. Yeah. So, I mean, you were recording this, what is it, September? We're rolling into October. What's the temperature right now? Like how early does it transition to cold?
So we always say the snow tends to fly. If we get a Halloween without snow, we're in good shape, but it's not that bad. This weekend was gorgeous. We were camping up in the Upper Peninsula, and it was in the 70s. So
okay,
not bad. Generally, this time of year is pretty mild, 60s, and then we'll drop into the 50s, 40s in October. November is going to be a lot more 40s, occasional 50s, and then December through March, cold.
Miserable.
Yeah.
No.
Mental toughness building opportunities all over the place. That's what they are.
Yep.
That's awesome, man. So you have this amazing 60 by 40 garage or barn gym that was like, dude, seriously, horse stall mats. They are an expense. Like it's hard to, I didn't buy horse stall mats forever because I was like, barbell or, horse stall mats. So that's awesome. But what kind of equipment do you have in there?
So I've got this huge space, and I've got pretty minimal equipment right now. It's I've got my rack. I have 2 barbells. I have a bench, and I've got my rower. And then I do have a pull-up bar and dip bar or stand. Some dumbbells, various dumbbells, kettlebell, vest, med ball, and jump rope, and that's it.
That's a good
No
amount,
cardio
man.
equipment?
Just the rower right now. I have a spin bike. My wife uses that a lot more than I do right now. That's inside, temperature controlled area, climate controlled.
Okay, so what kind of spin bike do you have? Because Joe's in the market right now.
Spin bike. We went the. If it was up to me, we'd have a Peloton, but my wife is much more financially sound than me, and so she went with it's a Schwinn. I can't think, IC 500 or something. It was about I want to say it was around $350 spin bike.
Okay.
And then we run an iPad. It comes with like a setup. You put the iPad tablet right on. And so we do a lot of Peloton. I mean, it's like $20 a month to do the Peloton app versus if you buy the bike, it's $40 a month.
And you have to pay for the bike.
And you have, 17 or 18.
Like how you going to charge that much for a bike and not like at least give you some classes for it? It was ridiculous.
That's been when I did some negotiating with the Peloton salesman. I was like, can you not throw in some months? I mean, give me anything. And it's just, no, they've got a good product and they get a lot of people to pay for it. So
yeah, you'd think it'd be like a year free or something like that. A year of get you hooked on the platform. You know, that's you'd think. Well, that's awesome, man. So spin bike in the rower, is the rower Concept 2 or is it a different type of rower?
Neighbor has a Concept 2. I use that for so today for the 500 meter test, I will be going to my neighbors after and running on the Concept 2. I have a Nordic, can't think of it, Nordic Track, I think is what it's called. Got a great deal on it. It was on sale, got a great deal on, brought it new. And then when it came, it was broken. And amidst many conversations with escalating volume levels, I told them it was garbage. I don't want it anymore because it just came broken out of the package. And they said, we don't want you to ship it back. So throw it in the garbage can. I can't do that. So got it working. It works fine as far as, for warm-ups and stuff, but I won't test on it. It's not near the quality of a Concept 2. And the metrics just aren't the same. I mean, I'll run a minute and a half or so on a 500 meter test, but on this Nordic track to get 500 meters, it's well over 2 minutes into 3. And so when I first started running tests on that, I felt like I am a terrible athlete.
Why is everyone so much fitter than me?
Yeah. I mean, I can do everything run, I can do all this, but when I get on a rower, why am I so bad?
That makes perfect sense, man. That I've always wondered. I've never messed, other than when I was in the military, there was, I don't even remember the company, but it was one that had like the water in it,
Yeah.
Like I played around with one of those and they seemed okay, but still I knew my Concept 2 row times and they still weren't proportional. But like, why does Concept 2 get the standard? Why doesn't NordicTrack get the standard?
Well, because that's what you guys are saying you ride is Concept 2. So that's my standard because I feel like that's what most the community has. Yeah, hard telling. I mean, is that what, I've never been to a CrossFit box, but is that what is filling most CrossFit gyms?
I think that's the main thing. I think that's like Rogue. That's like the only thing they sell, probably rower wise and stuff. So I think it's just they were first.
Gotcha.
They were like the first on the scene, I think. And I think they found a whole new fitness market. I honestly think rowers and all the stuff they had was like marketed to like low impact, more elderly type, and then high intensity people found it for how they could use it. Same with Airdynes. Like, but anyway, enough tangent of that, man. So you decided to start a garage gym. You mentioned in the beginning, primarily family reasons. Is that what I was hearing at the beginning?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, living in rural Michigan, I don't have much great for gym offerings. It's just your standard, guys doing more of the bodybuilding bro sessions, I guess. So a lot of squats, bench, and then jog 10 minutes on the treadmill, call it cardio. And so I did do some of that after I graduated from college. But I was driving 2 hours each way for my job. And I just didn't have much time to fit in on the hours. The gym wouldn't work with mine. And so I decided, well, it's, I can just get up earlier and go out to my space and I don't have to worry about, the time of day. I don't have to worry about if they're open. It's there. It's always there. And if I don't get it in the morning, I can get it in when I get home. So
that's awesome, man. Convenience. So 2 hours each way, 4 hour commute.
Yeah, when I first started that gym, that's what I had. I don't travel that much anymore. I'm in the car about 2 hours a day now. In rural Michigan, so I'm healthcare. An orthotist, prosthetist is my title. I make braces and artificial limbs for people, and so in rural Michigan, we tend to have to cover a much larger footprint geographically to stay busy. And so I travel. It's about an hour radius.
Okay. Wow, man. That sounds like an awesome title.
Yeah, right. It's a mouthful,
Yeah.
but
I'm not going to try and
cool.
say it, but it sounds awesome.
It is. It's really, I enjoy it. And it's a big reason I kind of have put fitness in the forefront of my family and myself is I see people, sadly, we've got a pretty bad epidemic of diabetes and just obesity, as you both know, but it's just kind of like, wow, you see all this every day. I gotta make sure let's combat it as best we can.
Yeah. Most of the amputations that are happening these days are not like from war, it's from complications of diabetes. And, that's the unfortunate truth.
Preventative medicine isn't as profitable.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I want to kind of backpedal just for a second. So you mentioned gym offerings not being too great in your area. So you started Garage Gym, but also you mentioned you have a neighbor who has a Concept 2, which immediately, alarm bell. So do you have a Garage Gym athlete neighbor?
They have a garage gym, but they're not much for. So they do much for weightlifting. Then they will do much more biking, walking. They're older than myself, the retirement age, and so they're not throwing any weights around or doing any movements like that. It's hikes, and then they got the Rower 4, kind of what you alluded to earlier as to what Rob was probably going for, is the low impact fitness machine. And they asked my advice what the best one was out there.
Nice.
Well, I got myself a Concept 2 real close.
That's awesome. That's probably one of the coolest stories I've heard. Your neighbor's like, hey, what should I buy? You're like, well, I'm not going to, but you definitely should get the Concept 2 because it sounds amazing.
Oh, by the way, can I come by and test it?
And I'm going to need to use it once every 12 weeks.
They did test mine before they got theirs. And no, they still went with that. But they were in a different financial situation than I was 2 years ago, too. So the $900 Concept 2 was not a scare to them as it was to me at the time. But
yeah, for sure, man. Well, that's cool. So let's talk about some of the things that you've done, accomplished over. How long have you been a Garage Gym athlete?
Oh, on and off. I've been a Garage Gym athlete quite a bit since I guess I graduated with my undergrad. So I graduated in undergrad 2012. My master's degree, I did a lot of working out on campus. And then in 2014, once I started Big Boy Job, it was kind of, well, I topped to a gym here. I do a lot of workouts at my house. My wife and I did a lot of Beachbody workouts together, whether that's P90X, Insanity, stuff like that. And that was great for kind of feeling good. But then if you stop doing it, even for a month, I guess you just never really saw much for results, except for if I did Insanity pretty hardcore and then watch what I'd eat, I'd lose some weight. But I always drew myself back to wanting to resistance train because football is what got me started in fitness. And football is what I dabbled in some. I did play collegiate football at a small university. And so I always felt better when I did resistance training, but I'm still into doing endurance cardio events. And so nothing really kind of fit my stick with it mentality, and always was bouncing around from different thing to different thing. And then I guess it would have been a little over 2.5 years or so ago, I found One Man, One Barbell, which seems to be a pretty commonplace amongst a lot of the Garage Gym athletes, and really like that. And then I hopped on to the daily programming, weekly programming.
Awesome, man. And so tell me a little bit more about any you mentioned some endurance events. Have you completed some events?
Yeah, this year my big one, I did an Ironman 70.3, so the half Ironman just at the end of August, and that was the biggest endurance event that I've done so far, and I really found a liking to through different events. The only thing I do like my breaks in between too, because now I'm back on, hard to kill track and back in the weights, because there's always that, feeling like you missed a little bit when you're not constantly, doing that programming. But that was one I did this year. And that was an experience. I had some Garage Gym athletes in the Facebook group help me out quite a bit with some questions on that. But
yeah, that's why I wanted to ask, because we were chiming in about some Mark Hoffmeister, and I chimed in a little bit about just fueling strategies during, man. So what did you end up doing during the race, and how did it work out for you?
So what I ended up doing during the race was I did those goo packets, and then I did peanut butter and jelly.
Nice.
I had asked that question way too late in the game. Yeah. And I did get, I believe Jacob Cornelius was the guy that reached out to me, and he's like, "Hey man, I hope you have 4 weeks to prepare for this to get your digestive system in track." And I said, "I don't." And he said, "Well, if you don't have food allergies, try PB and honey or PB and J, and just that way, don't mow down on it, because that's what people do is they'll eat a whole bunch thinking that'll kind of get them through, and then their body won't digest it because their blood flows, elsewhere, working with muscle exertion, and so I took that to heart, and I have a lot to improve upon just from knowing that I got to get that dialed in for my next event.
Yeah, and it seems to be that 200 calorie an hour is about like where it hits. Like I think that's about the limit. I did mention, so I have some in here. Yeah, I've been using UCAN for endurance stuff. Mm-hmm. It's I don't know why they won't make something that's a little bit more portable, but I seriously just carry packets of powder in my bike jersey in the back, and then fuel up every 60 or 90 minutes or something like that. And that worked really well. It's taken me, like you probably learned your lesson, like one event and you're like, okay, I know what to do now. It's taken me like 3 years of like Spartan Beasts, 100-mile bike rides, like all these things to figure out how to fuel my body. Because like I've always done something wrong, or like, thought I had it figured out and then end up hitting that wall. I'm hoping I can completely avoid that now in future events, but it is a definite art and science to making sure you don't have too much or too little.
Yeah, it was something that my colleague he is a big endurance athlete, and I made the comment to him just in passing that, I'm good. I trust my training. I'm happy. And he says, "Well, how's your digestive plan?" And I go, "Oh crap." I guess I'm not as good as I thought I was.
I plan on hitting the bathroom before I go, and that's my plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No coffee before the race.
Yeah, I mean, you really only need to worry about it if you're going over 60, 90 minutes or something like that, and then it becomes a big factor. Just for anyone else out there listening who's about to do a 5K and think that they need to have this intense fueling strategy, that's not the case. It's normally more endurance level stuff, especially like that. So how did you like the event, man?
I really liked it. I found, so the swimming portion was the most intimidating to me. I'm surrounded by lakes, but I've always thought I was an okay swimmer. Turns out I just float. I needed to work on technique, and so that was fun. But biking is what I spent most of my time on, and where I found the most enjoyment of all three events. And then the run, because of the lack in nutrition, the last 4 miles really struggled to, my quads just kind of seized up on me, and there was a lot of run walking to finish it out. But I'll do another one. I'll definitely do another one.
Awesome. And yeah, if you just mentioned loving cycling, I'm trying to find somebody to come do the 100-mile bike race with me. And so you're invited, but just know it's hot. It's a little bit hot.
I can't train. I can't get, I don't know. I have to wear like 4 layers of clothes.
I can't tell you properly. I can't tell you how many people have been like, "Oh no, I'm down. Bike race sounds good." And I'm like, okay, yes, it is a 100-mile bike race, but it is a little bit hot. And then everyone's like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm not doing that." I'm like, come on. Well, think about it. You're still invited.
All right,
man. So how do you like training in your garage?
I love it. just the convenience of being there. And a big thing, being a dad now, I really enjoy seeing, like when I'm out there, if I'm doing a med ball walk in the backyard or something, my son's just at the backsliding window, just watching daddy, like, oh, hey. And then he wants to race me or pick something up. And it's awesome. I mean, it's fantastic. Everything's there. I get to do what I want, when I want, and I can set a good example while I'm doing it.
That's awesome, man. All right. Now, what's the hardest workout you've ever done?
The hardest workout I've ever done, I feel like would be back when I played sports, just because I think the mindset of it, feeling like it was much more difficult. But I know now any sort of cardio event, I would kick football player Scott's butt. So in recently, I'd say Condition Me to the Grave kicks my butt. Hopping on it, I didn't even do it with an Airdyne. I had a spin bike, and that was the other machine I used. And that's tough to try and get to the time you want. And now it's just that it's harder and harder to try and beat that time every time you do it.
Yeah. Condition Me to the Grave is a serious one. And that's so true what you said about the mindset. I have workouts going back to like when I first, started a little bit more functional training or whatever, like just memorable workouts where I'm like, that was like ridiculously hard. And I know for a fact, like I could go do that workout right now and probably cut my time in half from the first time I did it and not even find it that challenging. But there was something about then and there, either your fitness level or the mindset or something was just so different that it was the hardest workout at that time,
Yeah.
And that's a really good point. All right, man. In your opinion, what's the best activity for building mental toughness?
It's been said before, and I do think kids, especially this past week, has some sick kiddos in my house. That's a tough thing to build mental toughness, but I know that's not in the cards for everybody. So I think the best thing to build mental toughness is just sticking with something, being consistent, and doing something difficult for an extended period of time. Just anything generally when you don't want to do it, like you got the Kill Comfort shirt on, it's kill comfort, do something hard, and it's something you want to stop doing, do it longer.
And I think that's why having kids or parenting is so hard, is because you can't quit. Like everything else, you actually have the option somewhere. You're like, I could, if I want, I could quit. I guess technically you could quit being a dad if you truly wanted to, but like most people, especially people on this podcast, aren't going to do that. So like, but yeah, that it's just, you can't, you're like, I'm exhausted. This is hard. I can't do anything about it other than do it. So I completely agree. I think your answer was perfect, and they're kind of the same to me. It's like you have to keep going. You have to grind, and it teaches that. I think it's awesome. All right, man, if you could only have one piece of equipment to train with for the rest of your life, what would it be?
It's hard to say it, but because I haven't really been on one for a good workout, but I really want an Airdyne. I see everybody really suffers on those things. And for my intervals in December or January, when there's a foot of snow outside my barn, it's hard to just run sprints and the rower doesn't quite get it for a 10-second, burst. But the Airdyne, I think, would be a good addition.
Yeah, it's definitely is.
I think some insulation would probably also be a good addition.
That's true.
Joe?
No, he just answered it. Airdyne.
Oh, yeah. Well, is that, I guess, it's both.
Yeah.
So that is what you would want. And then how do you know that's the only piece that you would train with for the rest of your life?
Wait a minute. I misunderstood.
Did I ask the wrong question?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think
yeah, I definitely answered the wrong question.
Okay. So let's go to, equipment you have trained with and used for the rest of your life. What would it be?
Yeah, no, that would definitely be the barbell. That was on me. The barbell is definitely the one I would do for the rest of my life. I had one thing, assuming I get the weights with it. I've been working more with kettlebell, but I haven't done enough with it. The barbell seems to be the most versatile.
That's what I like to hear.
One for me.
Barbell's making a comeback. There it is.
I think I got to come up with a new question just so people are paying attention.
right, man. Now, the question, this is the most important question of the show, in my opinion. So all the Garage Gym athletes out there listening to this, what is your best advice for them?
My best advice is to do something that you find enjoyable when it comes to your fitness plan. If you don't like it and you are totally struggling to get yourself to do something, it's probably not the right plan for you as far as long term. So stick with it, number one, but make sure before you stick with it that it's something that you enjoy doing.
Love it, man. Awesome. Well, Scott, it's been a blast having you on the podcast. I appreciate you being a Garage Gym athlete and taking the time to chat with us today, man. Thanks.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.